Hello, hello. Welcome to everybody joining. I can't see y'all, but I know you're coming in. Welcome to our June webinar. Thanks for joining in. While everybody's coming in, a question for you that you're going to answer in the chat. What is your favorite summer activity? Because summer has officially started as of 2 days ago. Favorite summertime activity? Just drop it in the chat. I'm going to go first, and it's reading by the pool because I love it. Beach, yes. Oh, jet ski. That's fun. Do you go jet skiing, Ioanna? That's awesome.
I try.
See, many of you are probably living in, I saw someone, it's always sunny in Miami. I get it. I get it. But for those of us who, we're in the Northeast and it's freezing, summertime activity, what do you love to do? It is always summer in Miami, Kevin. That is true. Water, beaches. Ooh, boating. Oh, Lake Michigan. Cool. Iced tea. Oh God, Mallory, good luck. I know it gets really, really, really hot there. As you're joining in, throw in the chat, what is your favorite summertime activity? Hiking. Oh, Lake Tahoe, beautiful. Awesome. All right. So while people are popping in, I want to welcome everybody to this month's webinar. We're super excited to have you all here and even more excited to have our special guest presenter. I'd love everyone to welcome Ioanna. Ioanna is a CEO. She's a girl boss. And oh my God, where did my thing go? Hold on, guys. Timmy, where did my thing go? I just lost my whole thing. There it is. All right. She is CEO and founder of Dextego. Dextego is an AI coaching platform, and it helps sales teams improve human performance through behavioral intelligence, self-awareness, and real-time coaching. I also want to welcome those of you who have never been to an Enablement Squad event before. Welcome to the Enablement Squad. If you are not already a member of the Enablement Squad, we highly encourage that you join us on our Slack channel. I'm going to pop in the chat our website. We are over, I think we're over like 5,300 on the Slack channel, over 8,000 on LinkedIn. This is a very special community. We are extremely uplifting, encouraging, all about our members. So if you are not already a member, we would love to have you. With that, I want to pass it over to my friend Ioanna. Ioanna, we're so excited. This is going to be a good one, you guys. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Very excited for, first of all, learning from each other, because I feel like that's what enablers do. And I'm a believer that the smartest person in the group is always the room itself. So feel free to, at any point, share any insights in the chat too with others. I'll try to make this as interactive as possible. We have some polls and exciting discussion topics. So I'll go ahead and share my screen to get going. And then I'll need your help, Michelle, with a few of the polls. So first up, let me know if you can see my screen. It's coming up. And I want the other view. Okay, let's see. Can you see it all fine?
There it is. We got it.
Perfect, perfect. So today's topic is how enablement teams are using AI to show the ROI of every lesson or every coaching activity. And before we get started, I would like to go ahead and do the first poll to see where people are in their journeys today. Is there a chance you have that ready? Yes,
Yep.
awesome. So how's your enablement team primarily get measured today? Is it based on how fast new hires get ramped up, their productivity, content completion? So let's say X number of lessons done in an LMS, your win rates, or you're like, I have no clue, I just started building the enablement function. Let us know. And that would be helpful to understand who's in the room to tailor the rest of the presentation.
All right, let's give it 5 more seconds. People are still answering, and then I will end the poll.
Perfect.
All right, and I'm going to share the results.
Wow, no one said ramp time. Interesting. Okay, so a lot of you don't have a clear measurement framework, which means you're at the right place today. And second is, yeah, content completion. I'm not surprised at all. I think we're still into this LMS world for a few companies in the group. Okay, awesome. Let's get going. First up, I would like to do kind of a high-level view of what is going on within enablement, because we're all complaining in the Slacks and amongst us, but it's becoming a big issue, and this is the enablement black box. So the old playbook, which as we've seen is still being used today, includes subjective measurements, like, okay, we did a workshop, let's say, on negotiation or on discovery skills, and then we asked the group, did they like it? Yes or no? Or how many of the reps joined, which most of the times it's mandatory. So it's really not saying anything about the quality of the training or whether or not whatever they learned will be used and applied. And then we have another big issue, which is the blending of the learners. But honestly, we took that from higher ed. Always what happens in a class is the professor adjusts to the average of the group. Same thing in enablement. When you have your top performers and your low performers, your training will land somewhere in between, missing both. And what's that impact like? It means that those top performers will disengage. They'll feel like they're not being challenged and probably leave for other opportunities where they feel like there's more growth. And for the low performers, they just can't catch up. Their probably confidence is hurt after that training and they don't really learn. And then the time lag gap, which is something we'll address a lot today. So you do the training, then they go and complete whatever activities they have to complete for the day, but they're not so sure where is the connection. And I'll give you an example. If I'm a new hire and I'm joining a company, I'm doing my onboarding, and I'm learning about the last part of the sales cycle, which is, let's say, how I create the quota and how I send over the contract to the client. I'm not incentivized in that moment to really pay attention to that because my KPI for my first week is just shadowing or doing cold calling, let's say. So that disconnect between what I am being measured on for the time being versus the information being given is too big. And these are the main three components that we see today don't work. And they're leading to two bigger issues, which is a lot of no decisions in our pipelines coming down to the relationship between the buyer and the seller. So if that seller cannot build trust with the buyer because that learning has failed, there's a huge impact in ROI and revenue. So it's something we really do need to take into account. And lastly, why is this important for all of us handling enablement budgets is because only 8% of sales coaching budgets today are linked to revenue. So with that, let's have a look into how enablement has been evolving over time. So back in 2000s, the LMS and content management systems really peaked. We still see a lot of us using them because they're kind of the status quo, which is always dangerous going with it, but it's something that can be very helpful for the product knowledge, right? A new rep coming in, they need to know the ins and outs of a tool, for instance, they complete an online course. But when it comes to sales skills that are more human to human, they're more practice oriented, you need those repetitions in, they're not that effective. So then we said, okay, let's move on into conversation intelligence. Let's start doing recorders and let's start seeing what's happening outside of the classroom. And then we moved into AI role plays the last couple of years. So with AI role plays, the idea was let's get that practice to be more interactive. Let's get those reps to practice even outside of the classroom. And let's make it more realistic based on where they are in the pipeline. Like, do they need to practice only discovery skills? Do they need to practice negotiation? Let them choose what they really need. So we started thinking more about customized learning approaches. And now we're into a very interesting time with real-time coaching, which means we're moving from the post-call recorder notion of coaching to real time, right there where the rep is actually generating revenue for the company. We're introducing real-time coaching to get them to learn while generating revenue and while their incentives are high. Because they're thinking, okay, if I don't close this deal right now, I'm not going to hit quota, I'm not going to get my commission. So the stakes are very high. And where are we going? And I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of thoughts about the implications of Gen AI and enablement, and I'd love to hear them as the webinar progresses. But we're going into an autonomous enablement system world where basically AI can pick up so much data from before calls, during, and after, and give us guidance on how to create better trainings, better go-to-market strategy, better everything. So at this stage, I would like you to tell me in the chat how many of these letters you already have in your companies, A, B, C, D, in terms of technology. And if you have none, that's totally fine. Let's see. Okay, Becky, I would love to hear more about your experience getting into the world of C with role plays. When did you start trying those? If you can unmute and tell us a bit.
Yeah, it's mostly with our BDRs. We're
Okay.
using Nooks as our outreach tool, and they can build AI role play bots. So we've built kind of the AI role play into the onboarding plan so they can get used to, talking about our company and handling objections and some of those.
Awesome. Cyril, is the use case for you the same? Is it for onboarding or
It
something else?
is. Yeah, for the most part, we're using something called Tangelo for role play and onboarding. Yep.
And have you seen any outcomes yet? Like, has there been enough time for you to collect any data on how it has impacted the onboarding?
Just it's sort of anecdotally, I think the new hires really like it, which I was shocked about a little bit. But I don't know that I don't know that it's speeding up ramp time or anything. But I do feel like we're still figuring out how to measure, was this a useful thing to put in place in the onboarding? It is. It's just a matter of, yeah.
So when you were buying into this tool, what was your assumption? It was that it would cut for a specific, like maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, a specific time, or you're like, let's do an experiment. What was your thought process?
It was more, I would say, of an experiment and to relieve the burden of the first line manager of having, because that was how it was working before. It was like we would do, the enablement team is outnumbered so greatly by the number of people coming in. So we couldn't do the one-on-one coaching that was required or sort of the knowledge check, skill check. Can they handle objections? Can they give the corporate pitch in 30 seconds? And so this is helped tremendously to have a gut check that this person has proven that they have accomplished this. But I don't know that we're getting to a place where we can really, other than like everybody, people like it, and the managers are happy to not have to be doing these activities one-on-one with the new hires.
And last question on this, are they practicing for actual upcoming calls they're gonna have,
Yeah.
or is this generic personas?
No, it's
Okay.
4 calls there. Yep.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And Becky, for you, were you able to track any data around the impact?
Not directly. I think we're tracking completion at this point. But we're also in the midst of some BDR upskilling. And most of our BDRs are less than 6 months tenure anyway. So
Okay.
it's hard to figure out which is which.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for sharing. So I see Megan also wrote D, real-time coaching. Can you tell us a bit about the use case there? Megan, if you hear us, can you unmute? It's okay, we can come back to you. How about we go to Susan? You also put D. What's the real-time use case for your org?
Yeah, I was just side chatting with a coworker on there. Real time, I'm interpreting real time as like you're talking about like managers coaching or us coaching in real time while they're on calls. Is that what, am I interpreting that
Well,
correctly?
this would be the way to do it without the tech. This is talking more about tech tools like AI coaching during live calls.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're doing the human part. Well, tell us about that. Like, how does it go during the call?
Yeah. I mean, I think, a little bit when we're on calls or we are or managers are on calls, they're kind of co-writing along with their AEs and then giving like feedback immediately after, which is, like a very typical kind of real-time coaching. So I think I might have misinterpreted it a little bit, but yeah, real-time coaching. I mean, now we're at a point with our Gong license that like it can automatically like set up like the AI scorecard and coach it or reps can get like feedback in real time from like the scorecard, but I'm not sure if that's what you
Okay,
mean as
so
well
this
either.
is great point because
Mhm.
it's also a question Angelina has in the chat. So usually these tools, like you're saying, real time is truly post call, right? It's just the call ends, then they get a scorecard. So it's not
Mm.
actually real time. It's still post
Yeah,
call analysis, which is part of the
yeah.
conversation intelligence. So
All
then
right.
that gives us the question, what is real time? So we'll get there.
Okay.
But Christy, tell us about your experience with Gong. Yeah. Why it doesn't work?
Yeah, so we've had I would say like we're a very early enablement function. We have an LMS, we have, AI role play. My frontline team is using Outreach and Kaya, so they get some like in-call feedback as soon as they, are having their conversations. Cards will pop up and tell them what should be said. But as far as like real-time coaching, I'm
Mm-hmm.
having a hard example connecting like what that would be, because for us Gong has not done that. Gong is not
Yeah.
doing in time. It's doing post and it does a terrible job. We really struggle with Gong. I felt like it was something we had to renew, but we will very likely find something different between now and the renewal again. Yeah, I don't know. Gong has been a letdown, from like what you pay for versus what you get, and the querying and the AI and what they're able to pull. It's just not a great like subset of data, and so we really struggle with Gong personally. That's just
I
yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much. I hear you. I mean, that's something I hear a lot in the field, and it's a very big constraint, but also fear of enablers, right? Because you want to go with a big name that everyone knows, everyone is using. You don't want to risk your role introducing some new tech, yet you're asked to prove ROI. So if we can go to the next poll, I would like to dive into this. Like, how do you feel about this challenge when proving ROI? Is it that you're not putting the things in place to allow for coaching to be continuous? Is it the tools? Is it what's going on? You don't have the data, like maybe Gong works, but the data available doesn't help you connect the dots. Where do you think the biggest challenge lies today?
While we're doing the poll, can I ask a question back
Of
to the
course, of
real-time
course.
coaching? This is Angelina. Are you implying, because Gong is post-call, because you can listen to recordings. At my previous company, we utilized Orem, where you actually can listen to live coaching. Are you like live calls and then give them feedback live on the call? Are you implying that or something
Yes,
different?
yes. So, and great question. We'll dive into it. But in short, I'm talking about AI that listens and suggests real-time coaching through pop-ups. Basically, not the same thing like a human would do, because a human would interrupt, add, but this is really guiding the rep on what to say to save the deal live, right there and there, where the stakes are high based on what's happening in the conversation. So listening in to both the prospect and the seller and suggesting ideal answers based on objections, for example, the prospect have. And I'm not talking about the teleprompter that tells you word by word, but you might have seen tools, for instance, that highlight like talk to listen ratio or other things like that, more as signals. And I'm talking about the next level of this, which is suggesting how you can adjust in real time, as if, to your point, you had a human, but that human cannot join that call.
Okay.
And I'll give examples.
I'm curious how this pans out. This is very interesting. Thanks for bringing this topic up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is where enablement is going. Real time, more proactive. It's a very exciting time. So on the one hand, I'm glad you're not aware of it because you will learn something new. But on the other, it just shows how fast the market is going, that it's hard to keep up. So let's see what we have here. It's hard to connect training to revenue outcomes. And we like the right data. Of course, these go hand to hand, right? Without the data, how will we prove it? And the problem is, not only coaching isn't happening consistently for us to get this data, it's happening in places we cannot track it. That's where the tech comes in. And really, I mean, how many times does a rep go to the manager offline or in Slack or in person asking a question, and then that question could have been so important that could have impacted the playbook for the rest of the team, but because it was not reported somewhere, that conversation that happened in the hallway never translated to enablement edits. So let's move on here and talk about why this is so hard to happen. So historically, there were 5 levels of evaluation. So a lot of you said, even with the role plays, the AI role plays, the team is saying, yeah, this is great, we like it, which is the first level. Then we have the actual learning. Okay, I did learn this concept in theory. Then we have the behavior change. So instead of, let's say, starting my pitch, asking about their business model, I now start by sharing an assumption about their business model, asking them to confirm or correct me. And then what did that do? Did it improve my win rates? Did that lead to us achieving quota, for example? So we had a lot of different layers that now are all becoming accelerated because of the tech and the fact that it has all the data in place to tell us what's that ROI. We'll skip that poll. But I want to highlight here that there's 2 big distinctions when it comes to training, and I kind of talked about it earlier. We have the product knowledge and then everything else, which are the sales skills, the objection handling, for instance. And sometimes we confuse the 2. And it's very important to get that right, or else we won't know what we're measuring. Now, tracking behavior in the field. I mentioned earlier the talk to listen ratios. This is something that I have a love and hate relationship with, and I would love to hear your thoughts, because to me, without the context, it doesn't mean anything. I can be talking for the entire time, yet I can do the deal. Maybe I don't talk at all, yet I can still do the deal, because it depends on who I'm talking to, right? I cannot treat all the prospects the same as a seller. And so standardizing this as a metric to tell me if my reps are good or not, I think is a little problematic. But a lot of the tools, including Gong and others that were mentioned, highlight talk to time ratios as the key metric. But also a lot of these tools, guys, remember, are not made by enablers. They're made by engineers, or they're made by people who think standardizing these things still makes sense. When historically we spent so much time trying to standardize learning, and now we're using Gen AI to say, forget this, everything has to be customized. So why should talk to time ratio be the same across our reps? Would love to hear your thoughts on that. Is this something worth measuring, in your opinion? Feel free to use the chat or just unmute. Are you using talk to time ratios as something worth mentioning internally? Yeah, 100%. It depends on the questions. Awesome. Another thing I see everyone is trying to measure today, it's also the sales methodology. Yes, Brian, 100% agree. AI role plays are great for practice, it doesn't mean translates to behavioral change. And think about it, because what tech does is really enhancing what the human would do. And what does the human do? When we do these one-on-one role plays within, let's say, an SKO, reps get to know us. They get to know what makes us tick, what we like to hear, what not. So they can really do a great job with us. That doesn't mean the next person they're talking to on the call resembles us. And so it's not that easy to say, okay, they did a great practice, so now they're going to go and nail that call. And it does take a lot of time. I hear this a lot, like creating these prompts, creating the avatars, creating the objection handling. It's really time consuming. So if you're not able to even prove ROI, then what's the point? The question becomes just to track if the reps use a methodology or not. Is this enough? Is it enough to say, okay, they use the messaging marketing usage? So really the question I'm trying to have you think here is, it's not just proving ROI, it's what type of ROI are we trying to prove when it comes to enablement? Is this the skills that these enablement tools have in place, or should we also add other things? I want to also highlight the positive side of the role plays now, because we talk about how it takes long to create them, yet there are indeed great results in the field. And I found these two case studies from Second Nature for very big companies like Oracle and As Brokerage. So they were able to indeed see more opportunities close, bigger logos, connect that to revenue. Now, it happens that we also, Dextego, have an AI role play tool, and I do see these connections, but I go back to two things. It's how you use it. Like a lot of you use it for onboarding. You can use it also when, let's say, you're launching a new product. So you want them to learn this new product knowledge, and you want them to learn maybe a new sales methodology you're introducing. So if it's something specific you're tracking, then you can quickly see the results. Like you can go based on the baseline you had before and see, now that we're introducing this one thing, this one variable, and they're practicing for it, do we see better results? Becomes very hard, I think, when you're trying to do too much to track any change. So you see here, it was very specific for opportunities per rep. It was not, did they improve sales skills overall? Now let's go to the next poll, and then we will talk about what you can do today if you don't have anything when it comes to role play in place, and then we'll end with the real-time element. So now let's be real. If your CFO asks you what revenue impact did enablement drive this quarter, would you have any confidence in answering this?
We'll give this one another 10 seconds.
Also, while we're waiting, if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to drop those in the chat.
All right, closing out the poll and sharing results right now.
Perfect. Okay, not very confident. Now, let me ask you, is it Nicolette that you mentioned you're a big fan of Second Nature? Have you used it? First of all, are you currently using it? And how confident are you that it's helping you make the case for ROI, if you're comfortable sharing? Nicolette, can you hear us?
Looks like she can hear us, but I don't know that we can hear you, Nicolette.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
no.
not here.
Maybe you can put it in the chat on your own time, but yeah, it sounds like, again, a lot of people are not that comfortable if the CFO came in. So let's see how this can change. First of all, we talked about this, but we need to establish the baselines. And I'm not suggesting you go and buy an AI role play tool. This is something you can do with ChatGPT, Claude, any other LLM, if you do indeed put some time to customize it. I have a rubric I can share with you offline or in Slack that I have collected like the most important skills based on a lot of research that you could basically develop with these role plays. But I will highlight something that was said earlier, which is very important. It's one thing to do role plays on personas. So say I'm selling to VP sales, so my reps just practice with a generic VP sales persona versus they're practicing with Michelle from X company on their calendar. It's really going to change the impact they're going to have. And it's because, like us, we don't talk the same way to our mom and our dad and our sister and our brother, right? Like, we need to adjust. It's not about what you say, it's how you say it, and that depends on who you're speaking to. So my recommendation would be to start there. Really think through the feedback you've gotten from your reps. What skills do they need to work on? Create this rubric for your company. Use ChatGPT to create some simple role plays. And again, I can share resources on this. Absolutely, I'll share it, yes, Sydney. And then try to do some A/B tests within your company. You can have group A running those AI role plays, group B not running them, and see, firstly, anecdotally what they say, but also see if there's any result change based on CRM data. You don't need to go crazy the first version of these and invest in a tech tool. But I think it will be very important to be clear on what change you're looking for. Do you care about the win rate increase, let's say, from discovery to demo or demo to close? What is the gap, and how can you reverse engineer that to build the skills they need to improve in order for that change to happen? Then you'll have a great use case where you can go to your CFO and say, hey, I've done this work with zero budget. I've seen the ROI. I think if we actually do invest in a tool, for example, we'll get to this amount. What do you think? Start having that conversation, because you do want to build that relationship with your CFO if you haven't already. Because honestly, the sales enablers that do that are going to have a leg up. We see left and right how many people are being let off. And the one thing that will save you is having that hard data. Whether we like it or not, this is the difficult spot enablers are in today. Now, any question on this before we dive into the real-time coach and how you can get started with the role plays? I think a lot of you already have done this, so you can share also your experiences with each other and help people create their first MVP of this. Okay, awesome. No questions. So what is a real-time coach, and how does it help coaching become sticky? Because I know you're all putting a lot of work and effort in creating these enablement materials, but the reality is, if I am a seller and on a call, I don't have the time to go back to my playbook and see the answer to that objection. So where AI coaching I'm seeing with these pop-up notifications right there in the call, and this is an example of how we do it at Dextego, but again, I'm not suggesting you go and use any tool. You can get ideas on how you want to build your enablement down the road when you identify where the gaps are, but I want to show you what is possible today, so you're already ahead of the curve. But when there's an objection, for example, taking place, we know an objection is a red flag. It's very important to be addressed right there. You cannot say, oh, let me get back to you. You're probably going to lose the deal on the spot. So Dextego would be already trained on your knowledge base. It knows who's in the call, the skill set of the seller, what's important to be said based on the stage of the deal, and then it will give a suggested response, maximum 1 to 2 lines. So it's not a distraction, but it can really save the deal, improve the quality of call, and it's tailored on the communication compatibility between the seller and the prospect, which means, back to my point earlier, if you're dealing with someone more analytical, you'll be heavy on numbers and stats and case studies. If you're dealing with a storyteller, it'll be more about big picture and what is the basically final destination, where can that prospect go, like what can they achieve buying your solution or a service. Another example would be securing next step. I hear this all the time, like sales leaders basically complaining that their reps leave calls without securing the next meeting. something so small. But the problem is how they're going about today is watching the recordings and telling the team after, hey, you forgot to set up the next step. Well, guess what? By that time, the deal could be lost. The deal basically has stayed in the pipeline, increasing that sales cycle. So it's very important you get reminded to secure that next step right there during the live meeting. However, it's something you can say it's a nice to have. It's not as critical as the objection handling. So the beauty is you can customize this and configure it based on what your sales org thinks is important, what's your sales process. And when I say sales process, I don't just mean bands being medpick the big ones. A lot of companies end up creating their own, right? Like a blend of these. And here I actually would pose this question in the chat. Do you use a sales methodology from the big ones or from one that you've created internally? Let's see. Yes. And Michelle, like, did you get any inspiration from existing ones? Like, how did you end up creating yours?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I've done this at multiple companies where I'll just pull the parts of each methodology that make the most sense for what we were selling at the time. I do tend to lean more towards medic, certainly for qualification, just because it's proven to work really well. But then there are pieces from other methodologies that I've pulled in. So, for example, I love the concept of cost of inaction from Challenger. So I'll always pull that in. I also pull in a lot from selling through curiosity because I really like consultative selling. But again, it also just depends on the products. It depends on the team too, and how well they can adjust to those.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right, so we'll get to the second nature result at the end. Let's just keep going with this and we'll get back to the chat. But I think, yeah, the sales methodology, as I speak to many teams like daily, I see it's kind of dying as like, yeah, we just use Handler. It's usually a mix and it makes sense because, I mean, these methodologies came again to standardize things. And now we see that each company's go-to-market really varies. Another thing I believe is key with a real-time AI coaching is the self-awareness it gives to the rep. Because we talk a lot about the angle of the enabler and the sales leader, but there is a lot here for the rep themselves outside of just saving the deal and hitting quota. But when it comes to their skills, seeing real time how they're doing. Are they speaking fast? Are they not asking the right questions? Are they not identifying the economic buyer? I mean, you know how much attrition there is in junior roles in sales, right? This can really change the game, but it's also increasing the bar. It's becoming harder and harder because people used to hire, let's say, 10 reps. Now they're hired two to do the same amount of job. So they better have the soft skills like A plus. Now, there's, I think, one more poll around this that we have, and then let's talk about how we connect all this to ROI. Can we get the next poll, please? Awesome. Yes, so this is really important about when really is the coaching happening.
For those of you who are worried about missing the rest, if you had to drop for another call, we are recording the webinar and it will be made available after the call. In addition to that, some of the resources that Ioanna mentioned earlier, those will also be available afterwards.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, we'll give this one another 10 seconds. Actually, it looks like we have a landslide winner.
Oh, yeah? Let's see. Yeah, not
Whoa.
surprised at all. Yeah, which is way too late, right? And not frequent enough. So back to what I said about the self-awareness, this is really helping reps know what's going on before they even meet their manager and being able to come up with specific questions themselves. So let's talk about this. What type of data can they get? Firstly, post-call analysis, which is something, as we said, a lot of recorders already do. They can understand if they picked up the right pain points, the requirements, they can make the right use case, but they can also see objections that are not just specific to why they wouldn't buy these, but get ideas and enhancements for product or for budget justification, because the success of a seller comes down to a lot of other departments. So they need to be able to communicate with them and share this information that they only have access to because they are speaking to the client. And historically, they would take notes and we would hope they put them in CRM for others to see or tell their VP sales or CRO. But now with this tech, a lot of people can have access to it, decreasing the feedback loop and making things happen. Another thing is they can ask immediately questions back. And I know already like Fireflies and other tools have this in terms of the recorder use case, but they can ask, in this case, I'm showing you a screenshot of Dextego's codes, but they could ask a question like, how could I have done discovery better right now that I have this fresh in my mind? And I think of maybe the angry face the prospect had when I talked about pricing, right? Like, what could I have done to secure the next step? Now the incentives are there, the stakes are high, I can save the situation with a nice follow-up. So that's when coaching needs to take place. And last but not least, with such tech, we could prove ROI because we know at what point the recommendations of the AI coach were triggered, how did the seller answer, did they follow them or not, and then connect that with CRM data to see increase in win rates driven by the AI coach's recommendations, plus compliance per rep per deal stage, which is very interesting data. More and more of these tools will be coming up. I mentioned like real-time AI coaching is where it's going. And I think the granularity of this data, even if you don't have this level of data right now, it's important to start thinking about how to get there by seeing what's already in your CRM. So back to the suggestion I gave you, like with the 30-day for the AI role plays, you could simply see your stages and start seeing some change basically in win rates stage to stage to understand where that impact could be more significant. The other interesting component of analyzing your calls, whether it's with a recorder or a real-time coach, is understanding the signal types. What do I mean with this? Is it that we're losing deals because our competitors are mentioned? Is it because the discovery is skipped? So is it really a process issue or is it a seller issue in how they do sales, how they communicate? Because back to what I said earlier with the product knowledge versus skill knowledge, the training will be different depending on the signal types. Last but not least, because we can understand how much revenue is saved due to these interventions, we can also improve playbooks, right? And how can we do that? If we know, for example, here at the bottom, that let's say a competitor mention took place, but the AI recommended an answer, the seller followed it, and that led to revenue. Now we have a new type of objection handling for this specific competitor that can be part of the playbook. So the next time we hire someone and they get onboarded and they do, for example, the role plays, their ramp-up time will be shortened. So it's a continuous cycle, and I welcome you to start thinking about this, like with this autonomous flywheel. How do we connect the dots? It's not just doing, trainings here and there for different things, but how can that become a system that automatically improves for the next person that joins the company? Now, to conclude, and then we'll go into the chat and open up for Q&A, I think the role of enablement becomes very much focused on taking all this data and improving reps' execution by developing their human skills. And the number one human skill in this AI world is influence. Because think of a world where all sellers have real-time coaches. They know the ins and outs of their products. They can answer any question about integration, about security, about all these things. Who will the buyer go with? The seller that they feel understands them, they are connected to, they show empathy, they can actually influence, which means behavioral change, and they can help them get to the finish line and close the deal. So really, where enablers are moving into, true coaching roles where they have to help these sellers become more self-aware and develop this level of skill set. And tech is one component. I'm not, although I'm a founder of an AI company, I'm not from the side of the world that believes, tech is there to replace us all. I think there's room for both, but that's where I think the room of enablers are. And I would welcome your thoughts on this. With what you saw and the first reactions you have, where do you see the role of enablers go within maybe the next year? Anyone wants to share any raw thoughts around this?
Yeah, I'll come off mute because this is definitely something that I've been thinking about a lot since all of these AI tools have come out. And I think that there's been like almost like for many an over reliance on AI to make things happen. Where truthfully, now that AI exists, I think it's even more crucial for us to maintain that humanity and like keep that, those relationships and that human aspect of business because without it, you have not, I mean, you have nothing really. It's
100%.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, like even if you have all these tools, like when your seller goes on a conference days and they go on a dinner, they still need to talk, right? They still need to converse. They still need to persuade. They still need to handle these objections in real life. So in my opinion, these tools are just becoming better and better to allow for that impact, that behavior change, so that it doesn't just stay in the classroom, but it's really on the human to then execute. Unless we're talking about super transactional sales, right? Like an AI talking to an AI and they don't need a human. That's a whole other story. Any other thoughts on these? Where enablers are going to be very important? Okay. Well, on my end, I mean, this is what I wanted to share. And of course, I'll share the rubric and happy to connect further. But I'd love to double click on second nature with Nicolette's answer here. It sounds like the two-way voice and video simulations are very realistic, which makes sense. Yeah, we started with chat-based role plays, and now we're going into this back and forth realistic environment. Were you able to also see any ROI? Like, could you connect this to maybe short-term sales cycles? Yeah. What was that significant metric you figured out? We can't hear you, unfortunately, still, but you can, yeah, it's awesome. Yes, thank you. Thank you all for joining. So I would love to open it up. Yeah, any questions that maybe Xaver can answer, like we can all jump in and help. Any ideas, anything that you would like to implement now after this?
A very shy group today. Come on, enablers. I know you guys are more chatty than this.
Sometimes it seems like you're already working on E. Back at the initial slide, E was I think the autonomous system. How did you do that? Let's see. Yes. How are you working on E right now?
Sorry, did you say my name? Can you hear me?
Yes. Back at the beginning,
Okay.
you had said you're already doing E, the autonomous enablement system. Can you tell us more about
Yes, I've got, yeah, well, the reason why I took myself off mute was actually to bring a different perspective to this conversation. The reason
Please.
why I haven't been really engaged or anything is I come from a different site of enablement. This is actually the first time that I've actually joined a conversation like this. And interestingly, as of last Thursday, my role actually became redundant. The company that I was working for went on a massive restructuring, actually making about 50% of the whole company redundant. So, unfortunately, I was one of them. Yeah, I know,
I'm
unbelievable,
sorry.
right? So it's a journey that I'm going through at the moment. But the point that I wanted to make was that with regard to my role, I was doing enablement on pre-sale side, so which is quite different from the sales. So I wasn't doing much of the stuff that you've talked about. It was more on the program basis. So we'll work on I will lead programs on value selling, where we'll maybe implement a tool, or we'll leverage Microsoft 365 or AI tools to come up with a platform or a tool or something that they can use, and we'll train them on those, and then look at adoption, work on adoption, and enable them through different, different ways. And before I left as well, and the reason that the company gave as to why they were restructuring was AI. So sort of 2.5 months before the redundancies, the whole company or the group that was so they were doing it in batches. So the product development department that I was part of, so initially we had an enablement team. There were quite a few of us. Then the company went through a first restructuring, and then we were moved to product. And then, believe it or not, product was the next group on the list to go through the redundancies again. So, I succeeded with the first lot of redundancies, but the second one, I didn't make it. But so we were told the last 3 months, all the department have to come up with ways to automate their processes. So someone actually named it the AI Hunger Games. So different departments were running around trying to find ways to make their jobs autonomous or some sort of self-sufficiency, to incorporate that in their jobs. But so in a way, it sounded like you're actually trying to automate things so they can get rid of you. That's what it felt like. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of bring that to the equation and explain why I wasn't contributing so much to the discussion, is because I did different type of enabling. Yeah.
And thank you for sharing. Yes, I mean, what you're sharing is a reality, and that's why I think this conversation today is so timely and important for all of you to consider, because unless you're in a position to prove you're not a cost center, you're a revenue generation center, and this is how and why, then it becomes very hard to have these conversations with a CFO or a manager. And I'm saying this having been in enablement, having been in people roles, and now as a founder talking to enablers, like I see the difficult position they're in, yet we all between us agree that we're the most important in a company, because without training and enablement, there is nothing else. That is not seen that way from the outside in. So let's move into a question Angelina had. Please tell us how can we help.
And kind of piggybacking on what she was just saying. So I just got a new role, and in the process of interviewing, I interviewed for like AI operations, enablement, AI agents. And I just wanted to, like, the information today was very interesting. And one of the takeaways that I'm going to do is implement, how can I track my data with AI agents in the processes for enablement? Because that's the next task that I'm going to be doing in this new role, and I'm actually really excited. And I don't want to speak for everyone's experiences, but I had an enablement mentor 6 months ago tell me that the next wave of enablement is going to be exactly this: is not doing one-on-one coaching, not going in and, like overcoming objections, but how do you build the AI agents to help automate these processes? And I've doubled down really steadily with research and configurations and everything. And I honestly think that if you're ahead of the curve and you're doing this and learning all of this stuff, like, you're going to be way more valuable and probably increase your pay for roles like that from enablement, because that's where the world is headed. But my question is, I want to, like, in your experience, how are you tracking the AI agents of like building processes and the ROI for that?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because I remember back in 23 when I first started talking to people about AI role plays. They thought, okay, we can do something, internally, and the problem becomes when you do it as an agent. Let's say on ChatGPT, it's very hard to track ROI because you give access to this to your team, but without analytics, dashboards, real-time connection to systems, you can't really know how they used it, when they used it, what did they learn out of it. You still depend on the anecdotal data. So to me, this is not the answer, but it is the MVP. Like, it's a good first step to do internally. So you build your own agent to say to the team, hey, that's the feedback. Now I need budget to actually go and purchase a product or build it internally if you have the engineering team. But it's very hard. Like, the way I would use agents is mostly for my role. Like, you can build your own agents to track things and help you maybe create different enablement materials, but you can't easily, the truth is, connected to ROI when the team is using it without a dashboard. There's a lot of complexity. You could technically, if you have a team, build, a data lake where all the data comes in, and then with some customization, you figure it out. But then you need to think about the maintenance of it. Like, models change every day nowadays. So will this be worth it if it's built internally? And this is, with any tech, this is a classic decision, buy versus build. So it has to be very specific to your org. I don't have a quick fix, but these are the pros and cons I would think about, and I hope this kind of answers your question.
No,
but
I appreciate it. I will definitely connect with you offline to geek out on this stuff. I love this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a big geek, if you can't tell by my glasses. So happy
the glasses don't mean anything. Excuse my French, but your shit. I'm like, I can see why you're on top of it. One of the best webinars I've joined. Thanks.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I know we're on time, so just want to circle back to Michelle, and thank you so much for having me, and happy to talk again offline with all of you. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everybody. I put the link in the chat for Ioanna's LinkedIn. Please connect with her, reach out to her afterwards. Again, thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.
Everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.